Imagine spending years carefully building something, a massive global agreement, only to watch it get completely torpedoed at the last possible second. That's exactly what happened. Today, we're going to break down the wild story of how a crucial climate deal for the shipping industry was suddenly sunk and what that really means for all of us.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with what this deal was all about and why it mattered so much. Then we'll get into the drama of how it all fell apart. We'll look at the shocking vote that exposed some major cracks, explore the fallout, and finally, tackle the big question: what in the world happens now?
So let's set the scene. You have to understand, this meeting wasn't supposed to be dramatic. It was supposed to be the victory lap, the final sign-off. All the hard work, all the negotiations, they were supposedly done. Or so everyone thought.
Now, the whole thing centered on something called the Net Zero Framework, or NZF, and this was a huge deal. It was a groundbreaking plan to basically force the entire global shipping industry to decarbonize. It was going to put a price on pollution, making dirty fuels more expensive, and giving a huge push toward cleaner stuff like green hydrogen and ammonia.
Now, there are really just two key groups you need to know about here. First, there's the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. Think of them as the UN's global regulator for all things shipping. The actual decision was being made within one of its committees, the MEPC, whose job is, you guessed it, to protect the marine environment.
So how did a sure thing completely fall apart? I mean, the journey from a done deal in April to a total collapse just a few months later, it's like a masterclass in geopolitical drama. It's pretty wild.
Okay, so back in April of 2025, everything seemed golden. The framework was agreed upon and everyone was optimistic. But the whole thing pivoted on October 10th. That's when the White House dropped a statement that just blew the whole deal up. Well, that gave countries like Saudi Arabia the exact opening they were looking for. So on the very last day of talks, they called for a vote to just postpone the whole thing for a year. The motion passed, and just like that, the deal was dead in the water.
And the language from the White House was not subtle, calling it an unsanctioned global tax regime with unfair burdens. That's some really strong stuff. This wasn't just talk. People who were literally in the room said this was the moment the steady ship began to list. It was a giant green light for any country that wanted to kill this agreement.
And that brings us to the grand finale, the vote itself. This wasn't just some administrative step. Oh no, this was a moment that put the deep, deep fractures in global climate policy on full display for everyone to see.
So here's the crucial part. That vote, pushed by Saudi Arabia and with clear support from the US and Russia, just completely changed the nature of the debate. What was supposed to be a technical conversation about fuel standards suddenly turned into a full-on, highly politicized showdown.
And the final numbers tell the story. Look how divided that room was. 57 votes for the delay, 49 against. It passed, but not by a lot. What's also really telling is that 21 countries just abstained. They sat on the sidelines. That tiny, razor-thin margin was all it took to bring years of work to a grinding halt.
You can imagine the feeling in the room. The IMO's own leader, Secretary General Arsenio Dominguez, was clearly beside himself. He basically pleaded with the delegates, saying, "Please, don't let this happen again." His words just dripped with disappointment that politics had completely taken over.
And that frustration makes perfect sense, because when a global deal like this collapses, the consequences aren't some far-off abstract thing. The ripple effects started immediately, and they hit the industry, the investors, and the environmental efforts hard.
The reactions pretty much split right down the middle. On one side, you had the industry saying, hey, we need clear global rules so we can make these multi-billion-dollar investments in green tech. But on the other side, environmental groups called it a disgraceful setback, arguing it makes the world, and I'm quoting here, dirtier and more dangerous.
And from a business point of view, a consulting firm called OceanScore really hit the nail on the head. They pointed out that this vote did more than just delay a rule. It made people question the IMO's ability to get anything done at all. I mean, if you're a shipping company trying to decide whether to drop billions on a new fleet of clean ships, that kind of uncertainty makes your investment incredibly risky.
So if we boil it down, here are the big consequences. First, a ton of investment risk for the industry. Second, it's a huge blow to the whole idea of countries working together on climate. And third, you get the risk of this regulatory free-for-all, where everyone just makes their own rules, which would be a total nightmare for global trade.
So all of this leaves us with the million-dollar question. Is the dream of one single global set of rules for green shipping totally dead? Or is this just a really, really long pause?
Well, the work hasn't totally stopped. There's a technical group that's still hammering out the details. The IMO says it's going to spend the next year trying to get everyone to play nice again. And there is another big opportunity coming up in April 2026 when a different rule is up for review. So there's still a chance for progress.
But here's the new reality we're in. With the global plan on ice, the whole center of gravity has shifted. Now regional powers are the ones calling the shots, especially the European Union. They've already got their own ambitious green shipping laws. And frankly, with the IMO stalled, the EU is pretty much the only game in town right now.
And that leaves us right here with this one massive question. Shipping is a global industry, so how can it possibly work with a fractured, patchwork set of rules? Is the future going to be governed by one set of clear guidelines for everyone, or will it be a confusing mess of different regional laws? After this deal collapsed, it feels like the future of green shipping is, for now, truly lost at sea.